America is standing at a breaking point, and this time, it's not just about an election. Across the country, something deeper is happening. Courtrooms, newsrooms, dinner tables, and even families are divided in ways we haven't seen for generations. On one side, Donald Trump, louder, angrier, and more defiant than ever. On the other, President Joe Biden, struggling to hold authority as questions over leadership, age, and control continue to grow. This isn't just a political contest anymore. This is a national confrontation over power, truth, and the future of America itself. What makes this moment different is the timing. Trump is not just campaigning. He's fighting legal battles that many Americans believe are designed to stop him from returning to the White House. Meanwhile, Biden's presidency is facing growing pressure from all directions. The economy, immigration, foreign wars, and public confidence. And the media? The media has become a battlefield of its own. Every headline feels explosive. Every clip goes viral. Every statement is framed as either a final collapse or a historic comeback. Americans are no longer just watching politics. They're emotionally invested, angry, fearful, and exhausted. Trump's supporters believe the system is targeting him because he threatens the establishment. They see court cases as political weapons, not justice. To them, Trump represents resistance, flawed, controversial, but fearless. On the other side, Biden's supporters argue that no one is above the law. They say democracy itself is at risk if Trump returns, warning that institutions, alliances, and even constitutional norms could be damaged beyond repair. And this clash isn't happening quietly. It's happening live, in courtrooms, at rallies during press briefings, and across social media where millions react in real time. Every word from Trump sparks outrage or applause. Every stumble from Biden becomes a viral moment questioning his fitness to lead. But here's what many people are missing. This fight is no longer about Trump versus Biden. It's about trust, or the collapse of it. Trust in elections. Trust in courts. Trust in the media. Trust in leadership. Polls show Americans are losing faith across the board. Confidence in government institutions is near historic lows. Even people who strongly support one side admit something feels wrong. Like the country is being pulled apart by forces no one fully controls. And while politicians argue, ordinary Americans feel stuck in the middle. Prices remain high. Housing feels unreachable. Borders dominate headlines. Foreign conflicts drain attention and resources. People are asking one question more than ever. Who is actually in control? This is why the 2024 race feels different. It doesn't feel like a choice between two candidates. It feels like a verdict on the entire system. And as the courts move forward, as campaigns heat up, and as media pressure intensifies, one thing is becoming clear. Whatever happens next will change America, permanently. In the next part, we're going to break down how the legal system became the center of this political war, why court decisions are shaping the election narrative, and how both sides are preparing for outcomes they may not publicly admit. Stay with us, because this story is only getting more intense. As the political temperature rises, one institution has moved to the very center of America's storm, the courts. What was once seen as a neutral pillar of democracy is now viewed by millions as either the last line of defense or the ultimate weapon. And no figure has felt this shift more than Donald Trump. Court dates are no longer quiet legal procedures. They are media events. Cameras line the steps. Supporters gather outside. Commentators dissect every word, every expression, every ruling, not as legal analysis, but as political signals. For Trump's base, each indictment feels personal. They don't see a former president facing justice. They see a movement under attack. The argument they make is simple and powerful. No other candidate in modern history has faced this level of legal pressure while running for office. To them, timing matters. Charges matter. Language matters. They believe the goal is not conviction, but distraction, exhaustion, and damage. On the other side, Trump's critics argue the exact opposite. They say the justice system waited too long, not acted too fast. They believe accountability is overdue and necessary, especially for someone who once held the highest office in the land. This is where America's divide becomes impossible to ignore. Two groups look at the same courtroom and see two completely different realities. One sees justice, the other sees persecution. And in the middle sits the Biden administration, officially distant, politically exposed, and increasingly accused of benefiting from the chaos whether intentionally or not. President Biden has repeatedly stated that he does not interfere with the justice system. Yet every new development pulls him deeper into the conversation. Silence is interpreted as strategy. Statements are scrutinized for hidden meaning. Even when Biden says nothing, the story moves forward without him. This legal drama has reshaped the campaign trail. Trump doesn't just speak about policy anymore. He speaks about survival. His rallies sound less like political events and more like war speeches against a system he claims has turned on the people. Crowds chant, emotions rise, donations spike after every court appearance. Ironically, the very pressure meant to weaken Trump has energized his base in ways few predicted. But there's another side effect, one that worries political analysts deeply. Voter fatigue. Many Americans are tired, not apathetic, exhausted by constant crises, nonstop outrage, and a political environment where every day feels like a breaking point. They aren't tuning out because they don't care. They're tuning out because it feels endless. This is dangerous territory for any democracy. When legal systems become political symbols, and political campaigns become emotional survival battles, trust erodes fast. People stop believing outcomes are fair, regardless of who wins. And here's the most unsettling truth of all. The courts will rule. The votes will be counted. But acceptance is no longer guaranteed. That's the shadow hanging over America right now. In the next part, we're going to explore how the media has amplified this crisis, how narratives are built, how moments are weaponized, and why Americans no longer agree on what's real anymore. Because in this battle, perception may matter more than facts. At the heart of this political storm is something even more powerful than courts or campaigns: the media. Not just television networks or newspapers, but an entire ecosystem of clips, headlines, influencers, reaction videos, and viral moments that shape how Americans understand reality. For millions of people, politics no longer comes from full speeches or policy documents. It comes from short clips, emotional headlines, and carefully selected moments designed to trigger outrage or loyalty. And that's where the divide deepens. Supporters of Donald Trump believe the media has crossed a line. They argue that coverage is no longer critical, it's hostile. That stories are framed to assume guilt, highlight controversy, and minimize anything that challenges the dominant narrative. Every headline feels loaded. Every breaking news banner feels dramatic. Every silence feels intentional. Meanwhile, Biden's supporters argue that the media is simply doing its job and reporting facts, holding power accountable, and exposing behavior they believe is dangerous or unacceptable. The problem is this: both sides feel misrepresented. That's when trust collapses. Polls show confidence in mainstream media at historic lows. People no longer ask, "Is this true?" They ask, "Who wants me to believe this?" Social media accelerates everything. A single moment, a stumble, a courtroom expression, a sentence taken out of context, can dominate the national conversation within minutes. Truth becomes secondary to impact. And once narratives are locked in, facts struggle to break through. Trump understands this world better than almost any politician. He speaks in sound bites. He frames himself as the outsider. He treats media attacks as proof of his message, not obstacles. Biden, on the other hand, operates in a system that once relied on institutional trust, press briefings, official statements, traditional coverage, but that system no longer controls the conversation the way it once did. This imbalance matters, because elections are no longer won by policy papers. They're won by perception. And perception is shaped by repetition, emotion, and outrage. The danger here isn't that one side is winning the media war. It's that the public no longer believes a neutral referee exists. When people stop trusting information, they retreat into camps. They listen only to voices that confirm what they already believe. Opposing views aren't debated, they're dismissed. That's how polarization hardens. And that's why this election feels less like a democratic process and more like a cultural confrontation. Every headline becomes ammunition. Every clip becomes evidence. Every silence becomes suspicious. In the next part, we'll look at the voters caught in the middle, the undecided, the disillusioned, the exhausted, and why their silence may decide the future of the country more than any rally or court ruling. Because while the loudest voices dominate the screen, it's often the quiet majority that changes history. Away from the courtrooms, the rallies, and the television studios, there's another America, quieter, less visible but no less important. These are the people who aren't shouting online. They're not waving flags at rallies. They're not arguing in comment sections. They're working, paying bills, raising families, and quietly wondering what direction their country is heading. For this group, politics feels overwhelming. Every day brings another crisis, another scandal, another warning that democracy is on the edge. But their lives don't pause for political drama. Groceries still cost more. Rent keeps rising. Jobs feel less secure. They don't ask ideological questions first. They ask practical ones. Will my life get better? Who actually understands what we're going through? Can I trust anyone in power? This is where both Trump and Biden face their biggest challenge. Trump speaks to anger and frustration. His message resonates with people who feel ignored, mocked, or pushed aside by elites. They don't necessarily see him as perfect. They see him as willing to fight. But for others, his style feels exhausting. The chaos, the conflict, the constant confrontation. It doesn't feel like stability. It feels like risk. Biden offers calm, experience, and predictability. But many voters question whether calm is enough in a moment. They believe demands strength and clarity. They worry about energy, decisiveness, and whether leadership is slipping at a critical time. This leaves millions of Americans in an uncomfortable space, torn, uncertain, and disengaged. And this is dangerous, because when people stop believing their vote matters, turnout drops. When turnout drops, extremes gain power. And when extremes dominate, compromise disappears. Political strategists know this. That's why both sides are fighting not just for supporters, but for belief. Belief that the system still works. Belief that outcomes are fair. Belief that tomorrow won't be worse than today. But belief is fragile. One disputed ruling, one controversial clip, one moment of perceived unfairness. That's all it takes to push someone from doubt into disengagement. This is the real battle unfolding right now. Not just who wins, but whether Americans accept the result at all. Because without acceptance, victory becomes meaningless. In the final part, we'll look ahead at what happens after the election, regardless of who wins, and why the real test of America's future may come not on election night, but in the days and months that follow. This story isn't ending soon. It's only entering its most critical chapter. No matter how this election ends, one truth is unavoidable. America will wake up divided. If Donald Trump wins, millions will celebrate what they see as a victory over institutions they no longer trust. They'll believe the system was challenged and survived only because people refused to back down. But millions of others will wake up fearful. They'll worry about norms, alliances, and whether the country can endure another period of constant confrontation. If Joe Biden wins, his supporters will see stability preserved. They'll argue that experience and restraint saved the country from chaos, but others will feel shut out. They'll question whether the process was fair, whether their voices mattered, and whether real change is still possible through elections. This is the moment America has been drifting toward for years. A moment where winning isn't enough. A moment where losing feels unacceptable. And that's the real danger. Democracy doesn't collapse when one side loses. It collapses when people stop believing the system belongs to them. The challenge ahead isn't just leadership, it's healing. Restoring trust. Rebuilding faith in institutions that feel distant and broken to millions of people. That work won't happen in courtrooms. It won't happen on cable news. And it won't happen through viral outrage. It happens slowly, or through accountability, honesty, and leaders willing to speak to the entire country, not just their base. Whether America is ready for that moment remains uncertain. But one thing is clear. This election isn't just about choosing a president. It's about deciding what kind of country America wants to be when the shouting stops. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more clear, calm analysis on major political moments, subscribe to Echo Storm for future videos, because the stories shaping the world deserve more than noise. They deserve understanding.